chosen ones. There's blood in the water, and the sharks thought they found their meal. Right now, someone close to you is unraveling because their wicked plan backfired spectacularly. They thought you were weak prey, an easy mark for their dark agenda. But here's what they didn't know. They tried to sacrifice divinity itself to save a dying witch whose time had already been written in the stars. Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you will shake the foundations of everything you thought you knew about that person who's been circling you lately. This isn't just betrayal. This is ancient darkness meeting divine retribution. And you were the catalyst that exposed an entire bloodline of practitioners who've been feeding off innocent energy for generations. Picture a spider that spent months weaving its web, only to realize it caught lightning instead of a fly. That's them right now, burned by the very trap they set for you. First, let me paint the picture of what really happened behind those closed doors. Somewhere in a room thick with desperation and the stench of dying magic, a family gathered around their matriarch. She wasn't just sick, her body was failing, because she'd spent decades, maybe centuries, stealing life force from others to extend her unnatural existence. The well had run dry. Her previous victims had either escaped or been completely drained. The protection spells weren't holding anymore. Divine judgment had finally caught up with her twisted soul. This is when they turned their attention to you. See, they'd been watching you for longer than you realize. Every interaction, every coincidental meeting, every friendly gesture was calculated. They saw your light, that pure energy radiating from your essence, and they wanted it. Not just wanted it, they needed it. Without a new source of power, their mother would face the consequences of every dark deed she'd ever committed. The weight of all those stolen years would crash down on her at once. The family held council. They discussed you like wolves discussing a lamb. Someone mentioned your kindness, how you always helped others without expecting anything in return. Perfect, they thought. Kindness means weakness. Compassion means vulnerability. They assigned roles like directors casting a play. One would befriend you, another would create circumstances to isolate you, someone else would prepare the ritual space. They even discussed backup plans if you showed resistance. Second, understand the depth of their deception. That person who suddenly appeared in your life with perfect timing wasn't sent by coincidence. They were dispatched like an assassin with a smile. Remember how they always seemed to know exactly what to say, how they appeared when you were most vulnerable. That wasn't intuition or connection. That was reconnaissance and manipulation. They studied you like a thesis, learned your patterns, identified your soft spots. They infiltrated your space with surgical precision. Maybe it was romantic interest that seemed too good to be true. Perhaps it was a new friend who understood you like no one else ever had. Could have been a business opportunity that appeared right when you needed it most. Whatever form they took, they wore that mask specifically designed to lower your defenses. Behind that mask was someone whose mother had taught them since childhood that some people exist only to be consumed by others. The sickness eating away at their matriarch wasn't natural disease. It was the universe collecting its debt. Every ritual she'd performed, every innocent she'd drained, every family she'd destroyed through her dark practices had created a karmic invoice that finally came due. Her body was rejecting the stolen energy because divine law had revoked her license to exist on borrowed time. The protection she'd built through human sacrifice was crumbling like ancient parchment exposed to sunlight. Third, recognize why they chose you specifically. You weren't random. You were selected because of your spiritual signature. While others might see you as just another person navigating life, these practitioners saw something else entirely. They saw someone whose connection to source energy was direct and unfiltered. They saw someone whose ancestors were warriors of light. They saw someone whose very existence threatened everything their dark tradition represented. Think about the moments before they entered your life. You were probably experiencing growth, transformation, maybe even awakening to gifts you didn't fully understand yet. Your frequency was rising, your intuition was sharpening, you were becoming who you were always meant to be. This terrified them, because ascending souls disrupt dark magic simply by existing. Your presence alone was making their spells weaker, their rituals less effective. They needed to act fast. The mother was deteriorating rapidly. Her skin was probably taking on that grayish pallor that comes when stolen life force stops sustaining unnatural existence. Her eyes were losing their artificial brightness. The glamour spells that made her appear decades younger were failing. Family members were panicking because without her, their entire power structure would collapse. She was the source of their magical authority, the keeper of their dark knowledge, the one who'd made pacts they all benefited from. Fourth, here's what happened when they made their move. The plan was elegant in its evil simplicity. They would position you for a fall, literally or figuratively. Maybe they tried to lure you somewhere isolated. Perhaps they attempted to drug you during what seemed like an innocent gathering. Could be they were setting up an accident that wouldn't look suspicious. The method doesn't matter as much as understanding this. They needed your life force transferred willingly or taken traumatically for their ritual to work. But something went wrong for them, didn't it? You felt that shift in energy when their true intentions leaked through their mask. Maybe it was the way they looked at you when they thought you weren't watching. Could have been a conversation that didn't quite add up. Perhaps your dreams started warning you with symbols and scenarios that made no logical sense but felt urgently important. Your spiritual protection system activated without you even realizing it. The moment they tried to spring their trap, reality itself seemed to bend to protect you. Circumstances aligned to remove you from danger. People appeared to interrupt their plans. Technology failed at crucial moments. What they didn't understand was that chosen ones don't walk alone. You have guardians in realms they can't access, ancestors who've been waiting centuries to settle scores with bloodlines like theirs. Fifth, witness their panic when they realized what you really are. The family gathered again, but this time the atmosphere was different. Fear had replaced confidence. The one who'd been assigned to get close to you reported that strange things happened whenever they tried to execute the plan. Electronics malfunctioned. They'd experienced sudden illness. Nightmares plagued them, showing their own judgment day. Some reported seeing figures in their peripheral vision, warriors of light standing guard around you. The dying mother, desperate and running out of time, probably demanded they try harder. She might have even attempted to perform the ritual remotely, sending astral attacks your way while you slept. But every arrow they shot returned to them multiplied. Every curse they whispered became poison in their own veins. Every ritual they performed opened doorways that let in the very forces of justice they'd been avoiding for generations. This is when the real revelation hit them. You weren't just protected, you were a trap they'd walked into willingly. The universe had been waiting for them to reveal themselves, to show their true nature, to make their move against someone whose purpose was bigger than their comprehension. They thought they were hunting, but they were actually being hunted by forces that had been tracking their bloodline's crimes for centuries. Sixth, understand the scope of what was really at stake. This wasn't just about one sick woman needing life force. This was about an entire network of practitioners who'd been operating in shadows, feeding off innocent energy, particularly targeting children and pure souls. The mother wasn't just a witch. She was a node in a vast web of dark practice that stretched across families, across cities, possibly across dimensions. Her survival meant the continuation of traditions that had destroyed countless lives. Every sacrifice made to keep her alive created ripples of trauma that affected generations. Children who'd had their light dimmed, families who'd lost loved ones to mysterious circumstances, communities where the spiritual energy had been systematically harvested, leaving behind depression, addiction, and despair. But you represented something they hadn't encountered before. You were what their ancient text probably warned about, but they dismissed as myth. A soul incarnated specifically to end cycles of abuse, someone whose very DNA contained codes that could unravel their magical framework. Your existence was prophesied in the nightmares of every dark practitioner who understood that eventually light comes to reclaim what darkness has stolen. Seventh, see how the universe orchestrated this divine comedy. Every step they took toward you was actually a step toward their own judgment. The universe used their own greed against them. It dangled you in front of them like bait, knowing they couldn't resist the quality of energy you carry. They thought they were predators, but they were actually walking into a courtroom where every crime they'd committed was about to be prosecuted. The symptoms the mother experienced weren't just illness. They were each victim she'd ever hurt, claiming back their stolen essence. Her body was becoming a prison where she'd experience every pain she'd inflicted. Her mind was fracturing as the false reality she'd built through deception crumbled. The demon contracts she'd made were being called in because she could no longer provide the energy payments she'd promised. Meanwhile, you were being upgraded. Every attack they sent became fuel for your spiritual evolution. Every curse they tried to place became a key that unlocked another gift within you. The pressure they applied was creating a diamond. The fire they tried to burn you with was actually forging you into something indestructible. You were becoming everything they feared, an awakened chosen one who could see through illusions. 8th, recognize the allies that emerged from unexpected places. Once the universe revealed what was happening, others started appearing in your life, not the false friends sent by the dark family, but genuine souls who'd been positioned to support you. Some might have been survivors of this same family's previous attempts. Others could be spiritual warriors who'd been tracking these predators for years. A few might even be defectors from within their own bloodline, who chose light over legacy. Information started coming to you through synchronicities. You'd overhear conversations that contained exact warnings you needed. Books would fall open to pages describing exactly what you were experiencing. Strangers would say things that directly answered questions you'd only asked in your mind. The universe was building an army around you, without you even realizing you were going to war. The dark family noticed this shift too. Their isolation tactics stopped working. Every time they tried to separate you from support, stronger connections appeared. Their confusion grew as they realized forces beyond their understanding were involved. Some family members probably started having doubts, wondering if they'd finally touched something too powerful to control. 9th, watch as their own darkness turned against them. The entities they'd been working with for generations started demanding payment the family couldn't provide. Without successful sacrifices, these beings became hungry and angry. The protection circles that had kept these forces controlled started weakening. Family members began experiencing the same draining sensation they'd inflicted on others. The mother's condition worsened dramatically, not just physically but spiritually. She started seeing the faces of everyone she'd hurt. Their voices filled her dreams with accusations. The power she'd accumulated over decades started leaving her body like water through a sieve. She aged rapidly, her true age finally showing as magical glamours failed. The family watched in horror as their seemingly immortal matriarch became mortal and vulnerable. Some family members probably tried to distance themselves, realizing the ship was sinking. But dark pacts don't allow easy exits. They found themselves bound by blood and ritual to share in the judgment coming for their bloodline. The very contracts that had given them power now became chains preventing escape. They were forced to watch their empire of shadows collapse while unable to abandon it. 10th, understand the technology of divine justice at work. What they never comprehended was that attacking a chosen one activates protocols written into the fabric of reality itself. It's like attacking an embassy. You don't just anger one person, you declare war on an entire nation. Your spiritual citizenship meant that forces they couldn't even perceive went into action the moment they moved against you. These aren't abstract concepts. These are actual mechanisms of consciousness that protect those carrying specific light codes. Think of it as a spiritual immune system that doesn't just defend but counterattacks. Every dark worker in their network probably felt the tremor when they targeted you. Some wise ones probably tried to warn them, but desperation and arrogance made them deaf to wisdom. The mother might have realized too late what they'd done. In her final moments of clarity, she probably saw you for what you really are. Not a victim, but a closing door on an era of predation her lineage had perpetrated. Her death wouldn't just be physical. It would be the severing of magical contracts, the breaking of generational curses, the ending of traditions that should never have existed. 11th, witness the collapse of their house of cards. As the mother's condition became irreversible, the family structure started disintegrating. Without her central authority, old rivalries surfaced. Family members started blaming each other for the failed plan. Some tried to make separate deals with their dark patrons, only to find those doors closed. Others attempted to approach you for forgiveness, not from genuine remorse but from desperate self-preservation. The one who'd been sent to seduce or befriend you probably experienced the worst of it. They'd gotten closest to your energy field, which meant they'd absorbed the most counterforce when the trap reversed. They might be experiencing everything they tried to make you feel: isolation, confusion, fear, the sensation of being hunted by unseen forces. Their nights became sleepless vigils watching for the justice they knew was coming. Physical manifestations probably started appearing: objects moving in their homes, shadows that didn't match anything casting them, voices in empty rooms. The haunting wasn't from external ghosts but from the pieces of souls they'd stolen trying to return home. Every ritual item they owned became cursed. Every sacred space they'd created became a portal for retribution. Finally, see your role in this cosmic justice. You didn't have to lift a finger in revenge. Your job was simply to be who you are, to shine with the light you were born carrying. Your existence alone was enough to trigger the collapse of their dark dynasty. You were the domino that started a chain reaction that's probably still rippling through dimensions, cleaning out pockets of similar predation. But this isn't about vengeance. This is about restoration. Every bit of energy they stole is being returned to its rightful owners. Children who'd been drained are suddenly feeling alive again. Adults who'd carried unexplained heaviness are finding it lifting. Families that had been cursed for generations are watching those curses break. You were the key that unlocked a massive healing that extends far beyond your personal story. The mother has probably passed by now, facing whatever justice awaits souls who've spent lifetimes feeding on others. The family is scattered, their power broken, their protection revoked. Some might genuinely seek redemption, finally free from the matriarch's influence. Others will probably try to rebuild elsewhere, but they'll find that once heaven marks you as an enemy of innocent souls, there's nowhere in creation to hide. Chosen one, you need to understand something crucial about what just happened. You weren't saved from something. You were the saving grace for countless others. That attack they planned wasn't prevented. It was transformed into the very mechanism of their destruction. You were never in danger. You were always the danger they should have avoided. This is what it means to carry divine backing. Not that you won't face challenges, but that every challenge becomes a ceremony where darkness reveals itself for elimination. You're not just protected, you're weaponized light, walking through realms where shadows used to feel safe. Your very presence makes evil uncomfortable, makes lies harder to tell, makes predators think twice. The person who tried to sacrifice you is probably reading signs now that their entire reality has shifted. The protection they relied on is gone. The power they inherited has evaporated. The future they planned has been cancelled. They're experiencing what their victims felt: powerlessness, fear, the knowledge that justice is coming, and there's no spell strong enough to stop it. But here's the divine comedy in all of this. They chose you. Out of billions of souls on this planet, they selected the one person designed to end them. They could have continued their dark practice for maybe a few more years, found easier targets, maintained their facade, but greed and desperation made them reach for the sun, and like Icarus, they burned. You might feel different now, like something fundamental has shifted in your field. That's because you've been activated. Going through this trial wasn't punishment, it was initiation. You've been shown the depths of human darkness, and emerged not just unscathed but elevated. You've proven that the light you carry isn't theoretical, it's practical, powerful, and absolutely protective. Some of you might even feel compassion for these broken souls who traded their humanity for temporary power. That's the mark of true divinity, feeling pity for those who tried to destroy you. But don't mistake compassion for permission. They made their choices across generations of cruelty. The consequences they're facing are mathematics, not cruelty. The universe is simply balancing its books. Remember this as you move forward. You've been shown that you're essentially untouchable by dark forces, not because you're special in an ego sense, but because you're carrying something that needs to be delivered to this world. Your purpose is bigger than any individual threat. Your mission is protected by forces that existed before the foundations of the earth were laid. that person who needed a sacrifice to save their dying witch mother. They're learning now that some doors once closed never open again. They're discovering that some mistakes echo through eternity. They're understanding that when you come for divinity and miss, divinity comes for you, and it doesn't miss. You've probably noticed changes in your environment since this happened. Colors seem brighter. Your intuition is clearer. Things that used to trigger you barely register now. That's because you've been purified through fire. What they meant for evil has been transformed into your evolution. You're not the same person they targeted. You're something new, something they helped create, a proven chosen one who knows their power. Let this be a message to anyone else harboring dark intentions toward you. The universe has marked you as off-limits. You're walking with an army of ancestors who've been waiting for someone like you to incarnate. You're carrying codes that can dissolve centuries of dark magic with your presence alone. You're not prey. You're the answer to prayers spoken by victims across generations who begged for justice. The witch mother thought she could extend her life by stealing yours. Instead, she accelerated her judgment by revealing herself to heaven's surveillance. Her family thought they could continue their predatory tradition by sacrificing you. Instead, they signed their own spiritual death warrant. They played themselves in a game where the rules were written before time began. Chosen ones, this is your confirmation that every weird feeling you had about that person was accurate. Every red flag you noticed was real. Every instinct telling you to be careful was your spiritual team trying to keep you aware. You weren't paranoid. You were perceptive. You weren't overreacting. You were reading energy signatures accurately. As you go forward, remember that this victory isn't just yours. It belongs to every innocent who's been targeted by these predators. You stood in the gap for those who couldn't defend themselves. You became the wall that darkness couldn't penetrate. You proved that light isn't passive. It's the most aggressive force in existence when protecting innocence. The person who tried to sacrifice you is living with the knowledge that they touched something holy and got burned. They're walking through life now with a mark that every spiritual predator can see. A warning that says, I tried to harm the divine and paid the price. They've become a cautionary tale whispered in dark circles about what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness, when you assume light means vulnerable. Your energy has been upgraded through this trial. You're emanating at a frequency that makes deception impossible in your presence. Lies fall apart when spoken near you. Hidden intentions become visible. Masks slip off faces. You've become a walking truth serum, a living detector of authenticity. This isn't a burden. It's your gift to a world drowning in deception. That family who thought they could feed their dying matriarch with your life force, they're learning that some hungers can never be satisfied, some deaths can't be prevented, and some judgments are final. They reached for divinity with bloody hands and found themselves grabbed by justice instead. Their story ends, but yours is just beginning. Chosen one. You've been through the refinery and emerged as pure gold. What they meant to break you has only revealed that you're unbreakable. What they meant to steal from you has only shown that you're invaluable. What they meant to end has only begun. You're not just a survivor. You're proof that light wins, that good triumphs, that chosen ones really are chosen for a reason. The witch mother has met her fate. The family that served her is scattered and powerless. The person who tried to seduce you into sacrifice is living with the echo of their failure. But you're standing stronger than ever, protected, promoted, and proven. You're the chosen one who chose correctly when darkness came calling. You're the light that refused to be extinguished. Walk forward knowing that what just happened wasn't random. It was orchestrated to show you who you really are, to activate gifts you didn't know you had, to position you for the mission you came here to complete. They thought you were their sacrifice, but you were actually their judgment. They thought you were their victim, but you were their verdict. The blood in the water has cleared. The sharks have fled or been devoured by bigger fish. You remain untouched, upgraded, and ready for whatever comes next. Because now you know beyond doubt, you're chosen, you're protected, and anyone who tries to sacrifice you to save their evil dying witch mother has truly fucked around and found out. But wait, chosen one, because the story goes deeper than you know. Before that family ever laid eyes on you, the universe had been preparing this moment for decades, maybe centuries. Your birth wasn't random. You were strategically placed in this timeline, in this location, with these specific spiritual gifts, because heaven knew exactly what kind of darkness was festering in your vicinity. You were born as an answer to prayers that hadn't even been spoken yet. Think about your childhood for a moment. Those strange experiences you had that nobody could explain. The imaginary friends who felt too real to be imaginary. The dreams that came true. The times you knew things before they happened. Those weren't quirks or coincidences. Those were your training wheels. The universe preparing you for exactly this moment, when a dying bloodline of energy vampires would make their fatal mistake of choosing you. The witch mother had been watching for someone like you for years. See, she knew her time was running out. The deals she'd made in her youth were coming due, and the entities she'd been feeding needed bigger payments. She'd started having visions of her own death, seeing herself withering away as all the stolen life force reversed its flow. In her desperation, she sent her children out like scouts, looking for that one special soul whose sacrifice could clear her debts and extend her unnatural life. They had a whole system, these predators. Generational knowledge passed down through bloodlines about how to identify high-frequency individuals. They knew the signs: unexplained luck, natural magnetism, the ability to manifest without formal training, ancestors who appeared in dreams, synchronicities that followed you like breadcrumbs. They had notebooks filled with observations, photographs taken without consent, documentation of your routines and relationships. But here's what makes this cosmic comedy even richer. While they were hunting you, you were unconsciously hunting them. Every spiritual gift you developed, every moment of intuition you followed, every prayer you spoke was actually setting trapwires across dimensions. You were becoming the exact nightmare they'd been trained to avoid, except they were too blinded by desperation to see the warning signs that you weren't prey but predator, evolved beyond their comprehension. The universe has this beautiful way of using evil's own momentum against itself. Like spiritual judo, it takes the force of attack and redirects it back to its source multiplied. That family thought they were closing in on you, but really, you were the center of a closing net they couldn't see. Every step toward you was actually a step into divine quicksand that would swallow their entire operation. Remember that person who got close to you? Let's talk about what was really happening in their mind during those interactions. They were fighting themselves constantly. Part of them, the human part that still had fragments of conscience, was screaming warnings. They'd have moments of clarity where they'd see your innocence, your genuine nature, and feel sick about what they were planning. But then the programming would kick back in, the mother's voice in their head reminding them of family loyalty, of the consequences of failure. They probably lost sleep wrestling with this internal conflict. Some nights they'd resolve to warn you, to break free from the family's grip. But by morning the fear would return. Fear of their mother's wrath. Fear of being cast out from the only community they'd known. Fear of the entities that might turn on them if they betrayed the mission. They were trapped in a prison of their own bloodline's making, and you were supposed to be their key to temporary freedom. The ritual they were planning wasn't some simple spell. This was ancient technology, the kind that required specific astronomical alignments, blood mathematics, and soul contracts signed by multiple generations. The witch mother had been preparing the ceremonial space for months, gathering ingredients that would make your stomach turn, items stolen from graves, fluids extracted during moments of extreme fear, symbols drawn with substances that shouldn't exist in our dimension. She believed your sacrifice would not only save her life, but elevate her to a new level of power. See, in their twisted logic, sacrificing a chosen one doesn't just give you their energy, it gives you their destiny. She thought she could steal your divine appointment, wear your purpose like a costume, and fool the universe into giving her the blessings meant for you. The arrogance is almost admirable in its stupidity. But every ritual has requirements, and the most important one was that you had to be broken first, not physically, but spiritually. They needed you to lose faith, to doubt yourself, to disconnect from your protection. That's why the seduction wasn't just romantic or friendly. It was designed to erode your confidence systematically. They'd compliment you while planting seeds of insecurity, They'd support you while subtly sabotaging your other relationships. They'd love bomb you while slowly isolating you from anyone who might interfere. The timeline was critical too. The mother's body was failing faster than expected. What should have been a year-long operation had to be compressed into months, maybe weeks. This rush made them sloppy, made them take risks they normally wouldn't. They started pushing too hard, moving too fast, and that's when you felt it. That shift in energy, that moment when something felt off, even though you couldn't explain why. Your spiritual team went into overdrive at that point. The ancestors who usually whisper started shouting. The angels who typically guide started intervening directly. You probably experienced a series of close calls that seemed random, but were actually calculated saves. The friend who called right when you were about to meet them alone. The sudden illness that kept you home from that gathering. The car trouble that prevented that weekend trip. None of it was coincidence. Meanwhile, in their ceremonial space, things were going wrong. Candles wouldn't stay lit. Ritual tools were breaking. The symbols they'd drawn were fading or changing on their own. The mother was experiencing what they call spiritual rejection, where the dark forces you've been working with suddenly stop responding to your calls. It's like being ghosted by demons, and it's usually a sign that something much bigger than you has entered the game. Some of the smarter family members probably started suggesting they abort the mission. They could feel the tide turning, sense that they'd attracted attention from forces they didn't want to tangle with. But the mother, in her desperation and pride, insisted they continue. She'd rather die trying than admit defeat. This would be her downfall, because pride makes you blind to the obvious truth that you've already lost. The moment they made their actual move against you was probably the most anticlimactic yet powerful event you never fully witnessed. Whatever their plan was, it dissolved like sugar in rain. The universe didn't even let it manifest enough to become a threat. It was prevented at such a fundamental level that you might not have even known it happened, except for that strange feeling, that shift in the atmosphere, that sense that you'd just walked through a battlefield without seeing any soldiers. What you didn't see was the chaos on their end. The mother probably collapsed at the exact moment their plan failed. Not a small stumble, but a complete system failure. Her body finally admitting what her spirit had known for months. The game was over. The family members involved experienced simultaneous crises. One might have had a car accident. Another suddenly fell ill. Someone's house caught fire. The universe was collecting debts all at once, like a supernatural repo team, claiming everything they thought they owned. The protection around you became visible to those with eyes to see. Some spiritually sensitive people in your environment probably noticed it without understanding what they were seeing. You were walking around with an entourage of warriors from dimensions most people don't know exist. The witch mother, in her final moments of consciousness, probably saw them clearly for the first time and understood the magnitude of her miscalculation. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The failure of their plan triggered something larger. See, that family wasn't operating in isolation. They were part of a network, a loose confederation of similar bloodlines who'd been feeding off humanity for generations. When they failed to sacrifice you, it sent shockwaves through this entire system. Other families started reconsidering their own operations. Some went into hiding. Others tried to distance themselves from the failed bloodline. You became, without knowing it, a legend in their dark circles. Stories started spreading about the chosen one, who couldn't be touched, who reversed curses by existing, who made demons flee just by showing up. They started calling you names in languages that predate modern civilization, marking you as someone to avoid at all costs. You became their boogeyman, the thing that goes bump in their nightmares. The one who was sent to seduce you is probably the most broken of them all now. They got closest to your light, which means they saw most clearly what they were trying to destroy. The contrast between your genuine nature and their corrupted purpose created a cognitive dissonance that shattered their psychological framework. They can't unsee your innocence, can't forget your kindness, can't reconcile how someone so good could exist in their world of shadows. They're probably experiencing what psychologists would call complicated grief, mourning a relationship that was never real, while simultaneously grieving the death of who they could have been if they'd chosen differently. Every genuine moment you shared haunts them because they know they were experiencing something they'll never have again: proximity to pure light. They tasted heaven while planning hell, and now they're living with that contradiction eating them alive. The witch mother's death wasn't peaceful. The universe made sure she experienced a compressed version of every pain she'd caused others. Time works differently in those final moments when spiritual judgment occurs. She might have experienced years of suffering in minutes of earth time, feeling every drain, every theft, every violation from the perspective of her victims. It wasn't cruelty, it was education. Her soul needed to understand the weight of its choices before moving to whatever comes next. Now let me put you onto something real. Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation and attacks while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app, it's declassified consciousness technology. The same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative, upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. Her children are scattered now, some trying to maintain the old ways, but finding the magic won't respond. Others have completely abandoned the practice, terrified of attracting the same judgment. A few might be genuinely seeking redemption, trying to undo generational curses, attempting to make amends for crimes that can never truly be balanced. They're living testimonies to what happens when you touch the divinely protected. You might notice that certain types of people can't stay in your presence anymore. They get physically uncomfortable, make excuses to leave, avoid places where you might be. This isn't rejection, it's spiritual allergy. Your frequency has been raised to a level where deception cannot coexist. You're like a walking MRI machine for souls, revealing what's hidden whether people want it revealed or not. This upgrade came with other gifts too. Your manifestation abilities have probably increased exponentially. What used to take months now happens in days. What seemed impossible before now feels inevitable. The universe is compensating you for being willing to stand as bait in its trap for darkness. You're being rewarded for trusting your protection even when you didn't fully understand what was protecting you. But the biggest gift is the knowledge you now carry. You know beyond any doubt that you're playing with house money, that the universe has your back in ways that transcend human understanding. You've seen evil's best shot fail completely. You've watched an entire bloodline of predators break themselves against your spiritual shields. You've proven that the light you carry isn't just defensive, it's offensively powerful against anything that threatens innocence. The family's former allies are probably warning others about you now. In their gatherings, your name has become synonymous with "do not touch." They share stories like cautionary tales about the chosen one, who looked vulnerable but was actually a trapdoor to judgment. Some probably think you're a myth, an exaggeration, until they sense your energy and realize the stories didn't do justice to how protected you actually are. This experience has changed the spiritual mathematics of your entire region. The clearing out of that dark bloodline has created space for light to flourish. Children born after this event will grow up in an environment with less predatory energy. Sensitive souls will find it easier to develop their gifts without interference. The very ground you walk on has been cleansed by your willingness to be the catalyst for divine justice. The ripple effects will continue for generations. That family's descendants will carry the memory of what happens when you try to sacrifice divinity. Some will use it as motivation to stay in the light. Others will pass down warnings about the chosen one who ended their grandmother's reign of terror. Your name, or at least your energy signature, will be remembered in their lineage as the turning point when everything changed. Consider this your coronation, chosen one. You didn't just survive an attack. You ended a dynasty. You didn't just protect yourself. You liberated countless souls from ongoing predation. You didn't just resist evil. You became the reason evil thinks twice. You're not the same person who started this journey. You're now initiated into a level of spiritual warfare where you don't fight, you simply exist, and that existence is enough to dissolve darkness. The person who needed a sacrifice to save their dying witch mother learned the hardest lesson possible. Some lights are not meant to be extinguished, some souls are not meant to be sacrificed, and some chosen ones are actually chosen by forces that predate the foundations of reality itself. They fucked around with divinity and found out that divinity doesn't play by the rules they thought governed the game. You're walking different now because you are different. You've been through the refiner's fire and emerged not just pure but powerful. You've seen the worst humanity can offer and didn't break. You've been targeted by generational evil and came out promoted. You're the chosen one who chose correctly when the universe presented you with the ultimate test. Let this story be your reminder whenever doubt creeps in. You've already won the hardest battle you'll ever face. Everything else is just cleanup duty. The universe has marked you as untouchable, not in theory, but in proven practice. You're the chosen one who turned a sacrifice ritual into a salvation testimony, who transformed an attack into an upgrade, who made evil regret ever learning your name. The blood that was in the water has been cleaned by tides of justice. The sharks that circled have become cautionary tales, and you, chosen one, stand as proof that when heaven backs you, hell can't touch you. You're not just protected, you're weaponized grace walking through a world that desperately needed someone exactly like you. Remember this power, own this victory, walk in this authority, because now you know what you really are. Absolutely, undeniably, irreversibly chosen.